Hey there, what is going on? Austin Zaback here with another YouTube video, and in today's video we're going to talk about the $2,000 a month stimulus package. Okay, I made a video actually a few days ago talking about the $2,000 a month proposed stimulus package, and a lot of you actually seem to like it. Okay, so in today's video we're going to dive a little bit more into it. And there's actually another proposed stimulus package that I want to talk about as well. And I want to give you also a couple of updates on the $1,200 stimulus package, the one that is already getting direct deposited into everybody's bank account. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the video. If you haven't already though, smash that like button because it really helps me with the YouTube algorithm, and I want to keep making a bunch of valuable content for you to continue to watch during this time, but ultimately once we all get through this, because I hope we all get through this at the end of the day and everything eventually goes back to normal. And then I'm going to make videos on real estate and the stock market and a bunch of other cool, fun stuff. So on top of talking about the $2,000 a month stimulus package, I want to talk about another stimulus package. I have a couple of notes here as well. But this other stimulus package I want to talk about is actually going to cancel rent and mortgage payments through the coronavirus emergency or up to a year. And I want to talk about that proposal as well because it is also getting a little bit of traction. Okay, so we're going to update you on that, and we're going to update you on a couple of other things. Also, really quick, the $1,200 stimulus check, okay, it is still getting direct deposited into people's bank accounts. So if you haven't gotten it yet, continue to check the portal. I don't think you're supposed to check the portal too often, though, because I do think you can actually get locked out. But it is actually going to get paid through the end of April, okay? So just again, if you applied for it and you haven't gotten it yet, just continue to check your bank account and hopefully it will show up. Okay, look, so here's the deal. The CARES Act was a pretty good deal, right? It was a deal where the Republicans and the Democrats essentially came together. They did it really quickly, I think in about 3 weeks, give or take, which is super impressive for that to happen, okay? As you probably know, that is like extremely rare, okay? For everybody to come together and make decisions so quickly. But the reality of it is the $1,200 is not enough money. It is not enough money for the American people. The SBA program was another great program, $350 billion to small businesses, but we also saw that fund ran out of money. We talked about that in the video I made a couple of days ago. So again, another great thing that happened, but ultimately not enough money, right? When you're looking at it, what I'm tending to see is that there's still not enough money. We need another stimulus bill in order for it to actually make a difference in the people that lost their jobs, the people that are actually affected by what is going on in the world right now, okay? We need something to happen, and I think that's exactly what is ultimately going to happen. Obviously, nobody knows for sure, but we're going to kind of dive into a couple of different things that I'm seeing right now that have a fairly high likelihood potentially of getting passed. And the more and more people that actually kind of get behind this and the $2,000 a month stimulus package, the better chances we're going to have at seeing something like that actually get passed. Okay, so let's just go ahead and talk about the $2,000 a month stimulus package. Again, real quick, we're going to recap on who would be eligible, answer all of your questions, any questions you might have. We're going to talk about it right here, and then we're going to talk about another proposal at the end of the video, so definitely don't click off the video. So jumping into the $2,000 a month stimulus, a proposal that more and more people are starting to get behind, okay? And what this would entail is basically anybody over the age of 16 years old that is a single person, okay, that made less than $130,000 would essentially get $2,000 a month for up to 12 months. Now, anybody that is a couple that made less than $260,000 would get $4,000 a month for up to 12 months. And then if you have a child, you would get an additional $500 a month for up to 3 children. So that proposal is called the Emergency Money for the People Act as of right now. Obviously, that could change. And essentially what this would do is this would actually include individuals that were left out of the CARES Act, okay, such as high school and college students, along with adults with disabilities, okay, who are essentially ineligible for the $1,200 stimulus check because they were claimed as a dependent on another tax return. So, I mean, that's kind of a big deal, okay? When we're looking at this, there's a lot of people, I mean, I've been doing research, I've been seeing a bunch of comments from you, and there's a lot of people that were in high school, that were in college, were claimed as a dependent that didn't get the $1,200 stimulus check, okay? So, essentially, another thing to keep in mind here is the CARES Act, you had to have a bank account or a home address. As you know, not everybody has a bank account or a home address, okay? There's a lot of people, I don't know, I don't actually know why you wouldn't have a bank account, but what I do know is that there's a lot of people that don't have a bank account for whatever reason. It makes a lot more sense to not have a home address, okay? It makes a ton of sense. Maybe you're living with somebody, or maybe you're traveling. I don't know. I know a lot of people that travel, like stay in Airbnbs, and they don't have a home address, okay? So anyways, the Emergency Money for the People Act essentially would allow people to get their money through direct deposit, check, prepaid debit card, or mobile money platforms such as Venmo, PayPal, and things of that nature, okay? So, you know, kind of a red flag, but at the same time, I see how this could be super beneficial. I did make a video talking about fraud and things like that a few days ago, but at the end of the day, I think that this would allow people to get their money in a bunch of ways that they're not currently able to get their money, and it would probably also speed up the process. I know with the $1,200 stimulus check, as quickly as it got done, as quickly as the Republicans and the Democrats were able to come together and get that passed and get deposits starting to go out, it is still taking a while, right? It is taking a while for deposits to hit everybody's bank account. I mean, the end of April, look, at the end of the day, a lot of people in America probably have already had a full month, if not going on 2 full months of rent payments, or at least a month and a half, okay, before they might even get their first stimulus check, okay? So my kind of thought process is that maybe by paying out through the Venmo, the Cash App, the PayPal, things like that, that maybe it would speed up the process if there were going to be another stimulus bill, okay? So just a couple of things to keep in mind here. Another thing with the $2,000 a month stimulus proposal is that if you had no earnings and you were unemployed or currently unemployed, you would also be eligible for the stimulus even if you didn't file a tax return, okay? You would just have to prove, I believe it is the last 2 months of income, okay, or something to that nature. I'm going to dive into it a little bit more, and I'll probably make a couple more videos on this, okay? So just kind of bear with me a little bit here. But, you know, basically I was talking about in my last video, essentially what this would do is this would actually qualify roughly, give or take, about 225 million Americans, okay, which is just, I mean, literally, that is an insane number to me, okay? 225 million Americans. I mean, just doing some simple math would come out to like $488 billion a month, okay, which again, I talked about in my last video, which would be about $2.6 trillion over the course of 6 months. Obviously, it could be up to 12 months, okay? So just doing some simple math. You know, look, that's an unbelievable amount of money, an unbelievable amount of people. But what I do know is that the more that we kind of look at what is going on in the world, the more that we kind of look at what happened with the $1,200 stimulus, and I believe the president even talked a couple of times, I think even on April 6th, and probably even a couple more times since then, they are taking a good hard look at another stimulus bill, okay, another stimulus round that would go out, okay. Look, I think it's a really good sign. I think it is a really good possibility that something like this could actually happen. Let's go ahead and just switch gears here for just a moment. By the way, if you're enjoying the video, smash that like button, okay? I'd really appreciate it. It helps out with the YouTube algorithm a ton. And my goal here on this channel is to bring you a ton of value in the finance world, the real estate world. So the proposal that we're about to talk about here would essentially cancel your rent and your mortgage payments through the remainder of the pandemic or the emergency. We talked about it a bit in the beginning of the video. It would be called the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act. I'll show you on the screen. And it could essentially cancel a nationwide worth of rent and mortgages for the duration of the pandemic, basically, or up to a year, okay? So for the duration of the pandemic or up to a year. And I'm just gonna kind of go through a couple of things here. And again, I'll show you on the screen. The bill would essentially include full rent payment forgiveness for your primary residence, okay? Just to be very clear, you would not be allowed to leverage this bill for more than one home, okay? So essentially this would not cover your third mansion in Aspen, Colorado, where you take your family skiing twice a year. Okay, you would not be allowed to do that, okay? So just to be very clear, there would be full mortgage payment forgiveness for your primary residence, okay? No accumulation of debt for renters or homeowners, and no negative impact on their credit rating or rental history. Now, again, this is a bill that honestly, I think it has a little bit of weight behind it, okay? So there is a decent chance that, you know, we actually see some traction behind this. We'll just have to see how it goes. It would establish a relief fund for landlords and mortgage holders to cover their losses, okay? So pretty interesting. It would create an optional fund to finance the purchase of private rental properties to increase the availability of affordable housing. I mean, this is interesting, okay? Interesting times that we're living in. So with this bill, landlords and mortgage companies would be covered through a fund managed through the Department of Housing and Urban Development, okay? To receive these funds, lenders and landlords would be required to follow federal guidelines for fair lending and renting practices for 5 years, okay? So very, very, very interesting here. Look, at the end of the day, I think that, like I said throughout the whole video, the $1,200 stimulus was great, but it was a Band-Aid. It barely covers 1 month rent for most Americans. I do think that another stimulus happening is fairly likely to happen, okay? There's some weight behind a couple of different proposals like we talked about in today's video, and I think there's a decent odd that one of them actually gets, moves on, okay, goes to the Senate and actually hopefully eventually even gets signed. I think that there's a lot of holes in the bills that we're talking about here, and I definitely think that they'll get cleaned up a little bit, and that is just kind of my opinion on the matter. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope that you got value in today's video of some sort. And if you want me to keep making videos on this, I will. But normally on my channel, I make videos on real estate, on personal finance, on the stock market, on credit cards, credit, just different things like that. Okay, so if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.